Hi class. In this video, we're going to talk about chapter 4 in your textbook, so the market forces of supply demand. Now, one thing to remember about supply demand in this chapter, this is probably the most important chapter in the entire book. So, and most chapters after this are all based on chapter 4. So, guys, if you feel yourself confused, lost from chapter 4, you're gonna have a hard problem for the rest of the semester. Okay, so make sure go over this very closely, read your books, and then ask me questions when they come to you. Okay, so remember, I'm always here to help. All right, so let's go over the PowerPoint. Now, so supply and demand. You guys hear this all the time, right? So what is it? It's supply demand, right? So, but you got to remember what is the supply demand. So we're gonna talk about. Remember, we have two type of market. Market. We have the market for good and service, and then we have the market for resource. But for chapter 4, for simplicity, we're gonna stick with our market for good and service. So if you think about this market for good and service, I mean, they're like your grocery stores, your Walmart, your Best Buys. Who are the demand and who are the supply? So the demand in this good and service market are the consumers, because consumers want to buy stuff from companies, want to buy good and service. So we're on the demand side, and the company who supply those good and service to us, they're the supply side of this economy. Okay. And then for remember what's a market? Market is when the buyers and sellers come together. We call that a market. Um, remember. There are different type of market. So you have your traditional market like Walmart, HEBs, but now the biggest market we have, they're online now. So websites such as your Amazon, your eBay, those market generate a lot of transactions in the economy. And then for those market, you don't have this physical location anymore, but still, it's where the buyer and seller come together, even virtually. We call that the market. And then for this market, again, take many forms. Let me go to the next slide. So, and I'm also going to make this very big assumption for chapter 4 and only for chapter 4. So we're going to assume that for market in chapter 4, that every market is a very competitive market, which means that you're going to have many buyers, many sellers, and then each participant uh, have a very tiny or even no influence on the market price. Now we call so this term, even though it's not listed in your PowerPoint, but you should know this, is something called a market power. So market power is the ability for individual to influence the market price. We call this a market power. So in the in a competitive market, you have many buyers, many sellers. So one person doesn't have much influence. So there are very little market power. Now, if you look at on the other extreme on the spectrum, so in the monopoly market, now remember monopoly is when you have only one company. So if you have a monopoly market, that one company over there have control over the market price. So that's a market power. Okay, so market power again is the ability to influence the market price. We call this a market power. And in competitive market, nobody have any market power because there's so many people, so they all interact, and then between those interactions, we decide what the price is. And we're also going to make one step further, take one step further. We're going to assume that every market is a perfectly competitive market. And then to be called a perfectly competitive market, you're going to have many buyers, many sellers, and numerous buyers and sellers. And another important factor to make it perfectly competitive, that the good they sell must be exactly the same. So once that happens, it doesn't matter who you buy from because they all sell the same good. So once that happens, that from consumers, the only determinant factor we have is the price. So whoever have a lowest price, that's the stuff you buy from. And also because of this, you have many buyers, many sellers, and then everybody sell the same good. So nobody have any control over the price. So we call every participant in the perfect competition, we call them a price taker. So you take what the price is already set for you. You cannot set your own price. Guys, let me give you example for this. We have this in the economy, even though it's not that many, but they are in the economy every day. So you guys probably deal with them all the time, which don't think about it. So if you can imagine, what is your favorite brand of banana? Yeah, what is your favorite brand of banana? I mean, do you even know the different brand of bananas out there? So when you go to Walmart, Target, HEB, Kroger, go to the banana section, look at the brand. Now, I mean, yes, there are different brand of bananas. You have so Chiquitas, those, so different brand of banana. Now imagine you go to the store, and then let's say HEB, and at HEB you have two brand of banana in front of you. One is Chiquita, one is Dough. Same quality, same color, same size, same everything. So only difference is the Chiquita sell you 50 cents per pound, and then for Dough sells you 75 cents per pound. So which one do you buy? I will go for the cheaper one, right? Because if the banana is all the same, so exactly the same, doesn't matter who you buy from, we buy the cheaper one because it's all the same, right? So that case is called perfectly competitive market. Now another example you can think of, do you guys have any preference of which brand of printer paper you use? You know, the stuff for your printer? Not really, right? So when you go to Office Depot, Walmart, when you go buy a printer paper, which one do you buy? You buy the cheapest. So so that way, because they're all the same, right? They're all the same. Now, however, now do you have a favorite brand of toilet papers? Yeah. So sure, right? I mean, I have a favorite brand. I always buy the one with the little bear on it. What's that called? Charmin Ultra Strong. Right? So it's amazing, right, guys? We don't care about which brand of printer paper we use, but we care about which brand of toilet paper we use. I mean, really, we don't keep our toilet papers, right? You wipe your ass with and throw it away. But the printer paper we read on. Now, why do we care about our ads more than our knowledge? It's because your toilet paper, they're different, right? So different texture, different strings. But for the printer paper, it's all the same. So for the printer paper and your bananas, they're the perfectly competitive market. Okay, so in this chapter 4, we're going to assume that all the market in chapter 4, they're all perfectly competitive. So many buyer, many sellers, and everybody sell the same good. So and everybody is a price taker, therefore no market power. All right. So we talk about this. So the first definition, so quantity demanded, is how many good, the quantity of the good that the buyers are willing and able to purchase at different price level. So imagine we're talking about bottled waters, right? So if the bottled water is $1 per bottle, then you probably want to buy five bottles. If the price goes down, let's say to 50 cents per bottle, then you might buy 7 bottles of water. So different amount you want to buy at different price level. We'll call that number your quantity demanded. And then we have our first law. It's called the law of demand. So law of demand says everything else equal. So this is very important. By the way, this is called ceteris paribus. In Latin, it means everything else equal. And by the way, so ceteris paribus is the only Latin I'll be teaching you. Okay, so the reason why is that I think it's wrong for you guys to learn Latin from a Chinese guy. Okay, it's just not right. Yeah, if you guys, there's a TV show called Community. If you've seen it before, remember that there is a Spanish teacher, and then that guy was actually a Chinese. Okay, so it's just not natural. Okay, and then another reason why this is the only Latin I'll be teaching, because this is the only Latin I know. Okay, so ceteris paribus, it means everything else equal. So everything else equal, nothing else change. And then the only thing change is the price of the good. So when the price of the good goes up, so when the price of good rises, so getting more expensive, same quality, same location, same color, same brand, same everything else. But if only the price change goes up, then consumers are going to buy less of this good. So the quantity demanded for the good goes down. And then vice versa, when the price of the good goes down, so getting cheaper, then consumers will buy more of this good. So that's called the law of demand. So this is very straightforward and common sense, right? So everything else equal, so nothing changed. But when the price of a good getting more expensive, we will buy less of this good. And then when the price of good getting cheaper, we're going to buy more of this good. So this law of demand is actually a very strong law. It's mostly true, but you do have certain violations of law of demand. One example, I always think about this. So in China, over here we have a brand of cosmetic. It's called Clinique. Now, I of course I don't use them, but we have them over here, and then if you compare to the price of other cosmetics, like what's the one my wife uses all the time, Lamere or Lancome, Clinique is not expensive, so it's pretty reasonable priced. But so what they did when this brand was first tried to sell in China, they also priced it pretty low. So because remember, this is the brand they never go sell in China before. They want to price low, give everybody a chance to try it, and then if they like it, they might increase price next year. So they did that. So the first year they were in China, the price is pretty low, but the sale wasn't very good. Like not many people was buying it. So what the company decided to do, they decided we're gonna keep everything the same. So same advertisement, same container, same design, same everything. The only thing we're gonna change is the price of the good. So we're gonna double the price of everything we sell. So immediately the price went up. Now, according to law of demand, if nothing else changed, but only the price goes up, then the quantity demanded should go down. Because when it's getting more expensive, consumers are going to buy less of this good. But that's not the case. The Chinese consumer actually end up buying more of this good. So why is that, right? So why would consumer buy more when the price goes up? And the reason why, because more than often we'll have this idea, this misguided judgment of that when you pay more for something, this thing must be good. So we have this idea that we tie the price of the good to the quality of the good. Then when you pay when you pay a higher price for the good, then this must be a very good quality, right? So when you have a consumer making those misguided judgment, then the law of demand can be violated. Now, this violation is not just limited to your Chinese consumers. You guys make the same mistakes. Not a mistake, but you guys behave the same. Imagine you go to a gas station and then you're very thirsty. You want to buy bottled water, and then they have two bottles in front of you. You never heard the brand before, but one bottle is selling for $1. One bottle is selling for 5 cents per bottle. Which one do you buy? Now, according to law of demand, we're gonna buy the 5 cents bottle, right? Because it's really cheap. It's cheaper than the $1 bottle. But for most consumers, we're gonna buy the $1 bottle. And even for me, guys, I will buy the $1 bottle because you don't know what's in the 5 cents bottle. Maybe that water is coming from Mexico or Flint, Michigan. Okay, you never know. So when you have this misguided judgment about the price of what you pay, and then has a relationship to the quality of the good, then law of demand can be violated. But more than often, law of demand is pretty strong. Okay. All right. So let me show you a demand curve. Now for demand curve, this is also a very simple graph, and then same thing goes with supply curve. It's a very simple graph, and I always remember this for a demand supply curve. The price is always on the vertical axis, and then quantity is always on the horizontal axis. And then what the demand curve shows, it just shows you a graphical representation of the demand schedule. Now for the demand schedule, it's a table between the price of the good and then the quantity demanded of the good. So imagine, let's say we talk about again bottled water, right? So when the bottled water is $1 each, then we might be buying 5 bottled water. When the bottled water is only 50 cents each, we might be buying 7 bottled water. So this little table here shows you between the price and quantity demanded. We call this a demand schedule. And then the demand curve is just a graphical representation of this demand schedule. So you're going to have your two-dimensional graph, price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal axis, and the demand curve is something like this. Okay, so it's the going down demand curve. Okay. All right, so this will be a demand schedule over here. So we have our ice cream price and then quantity of ice cream we would have demanded. So when the price is 0, so which means free, then consumers will buy 12 ice cream. And then when the price is 50 cents, consumer buys 10 ice cream, and then $1 you buy 8, $1.50 you buy 6, $2 you buy 4, $2.50 you buy 2, and then $3 you buy nothing. So this is a demand schedule. Now, guys, I want you to notice this one thing. You see how when the price is going up, so getting higher, 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 our quantity demanded is going down, right? So this two that goes in opposite direction. Now, so this is because the law of demand. That when the price goes up, holding everything else constant, consumer will be buying less of this good. When the price goes down, then consumer will be buying more of this good. So this is your demand schedule. And then to find the demand curve, again, price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal axis, and then you plot in all the points in there, and then connect all the points, and this is your demand curve. Okay, so demand curve is always downward sloping, and that's because of the law of demand. Okay, so when the price goes up, we buy less. When the price goes down, we buy more. Now, sometimes you might have a flat demand curve, or sometimes you might have a vertical demand curve, but very, very rare would you ever see an upward sloping demand curve. Now, if you see an upward sloping demand curve, that means your law of demand is violated. Okay. All right, so market demand is basically just the total of all individual demand for the good and service. So imagine that when the price for bottled water is $1, you want to buy 5, and then I want to buy 7. Then together, between two of us, we're going to buy 12 bottled water when the price is $1. So that 12 is our market demand. Okay, so it's the sum of all individual demand for the good and service at each price level. And then what you're gonna do? So again, over here, ice cream. So Catherine will buy 12 when the price is 0. Nicholas will buy 7 and when the price is 0. Added together, your market demand between two consumers will be 19 when the price is 0. So this quantity over here, this is your market demand quantity for the entire market, and this is the price level. So between these two, you can draw your market demand curve. And the market demand curve, again, just combine the two. So this is your market demand curve. So at different price level, you have different quantity demanded. And again, the market demand curve is downward sloping. Okay. And that's because of law of demand. Now, there are some factors that can fundamentally change your demand curve, and we call this shift in demand. Now, guys, before we go on, I want to make one point straight. Okay. When we talk about shift in demand curve, do not think this as shift higher or lower. I want you to think this as shifting left or right. If it's shifting right, so right shift, that's an increase in demand. If it's shifting left, that's a decrease in demand. So to the right, it's an increasing. To the left, it's a decreasing. Okay, so remember, it's not up and down. This is all left and right. Now, when I was in high school, my senior year, I had a speech class. And the teacher was a very cool lady. We talk about all kinds of stuff in class, but there are stuff you cannot talk about in class. So every time if you're gonna talk about sex, she never call it sex. She call it up and down. Okay, so no up and down, only left and right. If it's an increasing, you go to the right. If it's a decreasing, you go to your left. Okay. All right, so again, increasing, you shift your demand curve to the right, so there will be an increasing. Decreasing, you're shifting to your left, and there'll be a decreasing. Now, there are a couple of factors and variables can actually shift your demand curve, and these are the 5 we're gonna know. You need to know your income, price of other good, taste, expectations, and the number of buyers. So first, income. Now, for income, not all good are created the same. That for some good, when income goes up, we buy more, and then for other good, when income goes up, we buy less. So the first one, when the income goes up, we buy more. So you have this positive relationship between the income and quantity demanded. We call this a normal good. So imagine that most stuff we buy, they're normal good. So your clothes, your computers, your games, those will be normal good. When income goes up, you buy more of those good. But on the other side, when income goes up, you buy less of this good. That will be an inferior good. For example, any type of off-brand groceries, cereals, or any type of like ramen noodles. Ramen noodles will be an inferior good because really, and right now, for many of us who are in college, which is poor college students, what do we do for lunch, for dinner? We buy ramen noodles, right? Because they're cheap. So if you go to HEB and Target, Walmart, they're like 15 cents per pack, so really cheap. Okay, so when your income goes higher, so once you get your real job, you're making good money, you don't buy ramen noodle anymore, right? So for the ramen noodles, they're called inferior good because when the income goes higher, we buy less of that good. Okay, and then also, guys, the reason why that you guys believe ramen noodles is an inferior good because you never had a good ramen noodle before. Now, if you want to have some good ramen noodle, this is what you do: go to Chinatown, and then every China in every supermarket in Chinatown, they have a whole whole row or whole section of ramen noodles, and they're much better than what you can buy from Walmart and HEB. So have a chance, go to Chinatown and buy some real ramen noodles and then give it a try. I'm telling you, they're much better than what you buy from Walmart. Okay. All right, so the second factor we have is called the price of related good. Now again, there are two types. There's something called a substitute. There's also complements. So substitute, that means you buy one, you don't buy the other one. So a perfect example, this can be your iPhone and Samsung. Okay, so imagine you want to buy a phone and you don't care about which one you want to buy. By the way, the iPhone 10 just come out at $1,000. Okay, so it's pretty expensive. Um, yeah, so you pretty much need to get like a 20-year mortgage to buy the phone now. So for the between iPhone and Samsung, that's a substitute good. Because for consumers, we buy one, we don't buy the other good. So in this case, when the price of one change, it will change the quantity demand of the other good. So imagine you go to a store, you want to buy the iPhone. Right now the price is the same. So you want to buy a phone. So right now between iPhone and Samsung, they're the same price. So you don't care about which one you buy. But imagine the price of Samsung goes down. So I think Samsung the Note, uh, it's what, $800 now. So it's pretty expensive too. But imagine the Note is selling for only $400. So it's really cheap. But the price of iPhone haven't changed. Still the same price for iPhone. So what do? You buy the Samsung Galaxy, right? So in that case, iPhone nothing changed. iPhone still the same price, still the same quality, but the only thing changed is the price of Samsung's. And when the price for Samsung goes down, the demand for iPhone goes down. So the demand of iPhone depends on the price of Samsung. So that's called substitute good. Okay. Now complement is the other extreme. Now substitute means we buy one, we don't buy the other good. Complement means we buy two together. So we buy them together. Okay. So an example of this you can think of, between your what can I say about this? Like a hot dog and hot dog bun. So you buy them together, right? When the price for one goes up, so imagine you want to eat some hot dog for lunch. You go to a store and then they sell them separately. So the hot dog bun price increased, so it's more expensive now. You cannot buy any more. You cannot buy more hot dogs now. So what do? You consume less hot dog. So the demand of hot dog depends on the price of bun. When the bun price goes up, the demand for hot dog goes down. Okay, so they go together. Okay, so complements. Um, and the next is taste. So taste, anytime our consumer taste of the good change, we change our behavior. And imagine if there's a new study says the more Coke you drink, so the soft drink, not the one you snore, okay? The more Coke you do, the more Coke you drink, the better you do on your test. And guess what? That will change our taste for Coke, and then the demand for Coke goes up. Okay, so taste, that's another factor for demand. When that change, our demand will be either increase, which is shifting to the right, and decrease, shifting to the left. And then expectations, what you expect for the future also can change your current behavior. So if you expect that your future income is more, what do you do today? You buy more stuff today, right? So your current consumption depends on your expectation of your future income. And also, it depends on your expectation for the future prices. So if you expect that this price will be more expensive than what you do today, you buy more today. And then vice versa, if you expect the future price is lower, what you do today, you buy less today. Okay. Now, guys, if you smoke cigarette, um, they're not cheap, right? So a pack of cigarette now in Texas will probably cost you what, $5, $6, $7, right? If you go to New York City, it will cost you what, 10, 11, $12. So doesn't mean that the cigarette in New York it tastes better than the cigarette in Texas, and or more. The difference is the amount of tax involved. So a lot of what you pay for a cigarette is all paying for tax. And then the same with taxes. Every time we increase the tax on cigarette, we always announce it ahead of time. So we tell the public, says, hey, everybody, so by next Monday morning, the tax on cigarette will be increased by $1.50. And guess what? That Sunday night, before the price increase, you can always find a line outside the gas stations. So people line up to buy cigarette the Sunday night before the price increase. Now, the reason why, because if you expect Monday morning prices higher, today you buy more. And then vice versa, if you expect the future prices lower, today you buy less. I mean, really, that's why you don't see anybody doing their shoppings like the week before Black Friday, because by Black Friday price will be cheaper. So today you buy less, and tomorrow by Black Friday you buy more. And the last factor is a number of buyers. So anytime the number of buyer change, this will also change our demand. And that's really why many companies want to branch out to other market, because the more market you expose yourself to, the more number of buyer you have, and then the more number of demand you have for your product. All right, so that's your demand. Guys, this page is important, so make sure to know the difference between these 5 factors and then this price of the good. So if this 5 factor change, you're gonna shift your demand curve. So increase, you go to the right, and decrease, you go to the left. But if only the price of good change, so nothing else, just the price of the good change, then if it's increasing, then you'll be moving from one point on the demand curve to the next point on the demand curve. So when the price change, you don't shift your line anymore. You move on the same demand curve. Okay, but when this 5 factor change, you're gonna shift your demand curve. So increase to the right and decrease to your left. Okay. I'm gonna skip this, not important. All right, supply. So supply is very much like demand, but everything reversed. So now what's a quantity supplied? So quantity supplied is just how many unit of the good you're willing to supply to the marketplace at different price level. That's called quantity supplied. And then we have this law of supply. Now again, holding everything else equal, so ceteris paribus. Guys, one thing you need to know about companies, the goal of every company is to maximize your profit. So profit is the most important thing for companies. Now, when the price, so profit, let me this down. So profit equals to your price of the good minus the cost of the good, and then multiply by the quantity of how many you sell. So if holding everything else constant, so you have the same cost, you have the same quantity, if the price goes up, that means your profit is going up. So when the profit goes up, it gives companies more incentive to produce more. So therefore, when the price goes up, so when the price rises, companies will produce more of the good. They'll supply more of the good. And then vice versa, when the price goes down, company will supply less of this good. So this is reversed with your demand. For demand curve, that's an inverse relationship, and then for supply curve between your price and the quantity supplied, this is a positive relationship, or direct relationship. They both go up together. Okay. So same deal. So we have a supply schedule. So supply schedule is just a table, shows you between your price and the quantity supplied. So let's say that if you're a company, when the price of the good is $1 for bottled water, you want to sell 5 bottled waters. When the price for the good is only 50 cents, so going down now, you want to sell less now because of lower profit. So you're going to sell 3 units. And then this table is called the demand schedule. And then the demand curve, it's just a graphical representation of a demand schedule. So again, it's a 2-dimensional curve, price on the vertical axis, and then quantity on the horizontal axis. And then for demand curve, this will be an upward sloping curve, and that's because of law of supply. Okay, so let's look at this. So on the left here we have our supply curve, supply schedule between the price of the ice cream and quantity supplied. Now notice at the 0 price, the quantity supplied is 0. Well, if you guys think about it, when the price is 0, when companies sell this good at a 0 price, how much profit do they make? Nothing, right? They might be even losing money. So if you're losing money, why even produce it? So when the price is 0, they don't want to sell anything. And when the price is 50 cents, they might be still losing money. So they don't want to sell anything. But when the price is 1 now, they sell 1 unit. When the price is 150, sell 2 units. And then $2 sell 3 units, 250 sell 4, and then $3 sell 5 units. So see how the price goes up and the quantity supplied goes up? They go the same direction, right? So your supply curve will be upward sloping, and that's because of the law of supply. Okay, so supply curve. Now you might see a supply curve that's flat, or you might see a supply curve that's vertical, but you will never see a supply curve that's downward sloping. supply curve is pretty much always upward sloping or one of these two. Okay, you will never see a supply curve that's downward sloping. All right, so market supply, so very similar to market demand. It's just basically a collection, a sum of all individual supplies at different price level. And then for market supply curve, it is also downward sloping, just like your individual, upward sloping, just like your individual supply curve. Okay, so suppose you have two companies, Ben and Jerry. They're the one company, but you have two companies, Ben and Jerry. So look at here. So when the price is $2, Ben want to sell 3 units, Jerry want to sell 4 units, so together it's 7 units. So between this, your quantity supplied it, and this the price level, and then between these two columns here, you have your market supply curve. Oh, look, that's a happy face. All right, so again, add it together. So supply curve for Ben plus supply curve for Jerry at different price level, and then you have your supply curve for the market, and it's pretty much always upward sloping. Also for supply curve, it's very much like demand curve. When you have a change, an increase, you're going to shift to the right. When you have a decrease, you're going to shift to the left. Okay, so remember that doesn't matter which either demand or supply. If it's increasing, you go to your right. If it's decreasing, you go to your left. So that's a increasing and that's a decreasing. Now there are variables or factors can shift your demand, your supply curve. There are 4 of them. So first is input price. Now input price, you can think this as the cost of production. Now remember, the goal of company is to have the most profit. So again, profit is equal to price minus cost of production times quantity. Now holding everything else constant, so price the same, quantity the same. If your cost goes up, then your profit goes down, right? So if that's the case, when cost goes up, holding everything else constant, company will produce less of this good because it's just lower profit. Why even do it? Do something else. Now, vice versa, if the cost goes down, then company profit goes up, then company will produce more of the good. So your cost or input price is related to the level of supply. So when the cost goes up, supply goes down, which means you're shifting to the left. When the cost goes down, supply goes up, you'll be shifting to your right. And the next technology, so every time you have an improvement in technology, that will reduce the cost for the company. So cost goes down and then supply goes up. Again, that will mean your supply curve will be shifting to your right. Okay. Next, expectations. So company also have an expectation for the future. Now, if you expect tomorrow price is lower than today, company want to sell more of this good. And the vice versa, if you expect that tomorrow future price is higher, today you want to sell less of this good. And then last one is number of sellers. So very similar to number of buyers. The more seller you have, the more demand the more supply you have. And then vice versa, when the number of seller goes down, the less seller you have, the less supply you have. Now, one thing you can think about it, you can think about the market for LED TVs, because when LED TV first come out, there was only 2 companies, so only 2 sellers. You had Samsung and Sony. At the time, the LED TV was very expensive. But now you have more companies, so still Samsung and Sony, but also LG, Vizio, Westinghouse, Sharp. So all those new companies, they're also making LED TVs. So more number of sellers. Then we have more number of sellers. So this is your original supply curve. More number of sellers, the supply curve goes to the right. Okay. And then you have, so this table is also important, just like before. So we have 4 factors that can cause you to shift your supply curve, either to the right, that's an increasing, to the left, that's a decreasing. Now you also have this price change. So when only the price change and nothing else, if only the price change, then you're moving from one point on the graph to another point on the graph. So you don't actually shift your line, you're moving on the same line, and that's the price change. Okay. All right, so supply is always going up, demand is always going down. So that's a supply curve, that's demand curve. The price over here, quantity over here. That means eventually they will meet. Now, when they're meeting over here, this is the whole reason why I want to study supply demand. And this intersection is called the equilibrium. Now, the equilibrium, what that means at this point, at this price level, when they intersect, your quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So how much is being produced by the companies is all consumed by consumers, and how much consumer want to buy are all satisfied by the companies. So at this equilibrium point, you have some special properties. Now, the very first special property is imagine this point as a black hole. Now, if you guys watching any type of sci-fi movies or TV shows, you should know that the black hole attract everything else to it, so it has a very high gravity. Same thing with this intersection here. That every time you're away from intersection, you always tend to go back to intersection, unless you have some market forces that's preventing it from going back to the intersection. Okay. And also at this intersection, since your demand is equal to supply, the quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. At this point, you have no surplus and then no shortage. So whatever you want to, whatever company produces, all consumed by consumers, and whatever consumers want to buy is all produced by the companies. So no surplus, no shortage. Now, equilibrium price is just at the intersection on whatever the price is, that's your equilibrium price, okay? And the equilibrium quantity, that means at this quantity over here, that's your equilibrium quantity. So for this market, now guys, you might see questions like this on the test. So I'll give you a graph like this and ask you what's the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So just look for the intersection, and then go to the left. That's your equilibrium price, and then go down. That's your equilibrium quantity. Okay. Now surplus. So surplus is any time if your quantity supplied is more than quantity demanded. So company produced too much, we call this an excess supply. That's a surplus. Now, if you look at your supply demand curve, every time when the price, so this is the equilibrium price, every time the price is too high, and then you have a surplus in the economy, because at this point, that's your quantity supplied, and this point is your quantity demanded, and that is a surplus for the economy. Now, when you have a surplus, the pressure, there will be a downward pressure. Remember, this intersection is your black hole, so you tend to go back to your black hole. So there'll be a downward pressure to push the price lower to where the equilibrium price is. Now, shortage is reversed. So shortage is when the quantity demanded is more than quantity supplied. So consumers want to buy more of this good, but we don't have enough of them. So this is the excess demand. So if you graph this, again, supply demand curve, and then you have your equilibrium price over here. That's an E. Equilibrium quantity over here. Anywhere you're below equilibrium price, this is a shortage, because on this point, that's your quantity demanded. On this point, that's your quantity supplied. So supply more than demand, that we call this difference here. This is our shortage. Okay. Yeah, sorry, it's a little messy. All right. Okay, so if you look at this, and the question is, so on this graph on the left, the equilibrium price is $2. So when the price goes up to 250, do we have a surplus or shortage? Now remember, every time you're above equilibrium, we have a surplus. And how much is a surplus? So how many units do we have surplus for? So you look at 250. We're intersect the supply curve, so go down. This is our quantity supplied. So at 250, company will produce 10 units. But on the demand curve, so go down, this is your quantity demanded. So company produced 10 units, consumer only buy 4 units. So your surplus is 10 minus 4, so a surplus of 6 units. So this difference here, that's your level of surplus. And then vice versa over here on this graph on the right, when the price is below equilibrium, we have a shortage. And then how much are we short by? So you draw a line all the way across when the price is 150. Look at the demand curve intersection at $10. Supply curve intersection at $4. So this is your quantity demanded. Here is your quantity supplied. So demand more than supply. So how much a shortage is? Find the difference here. So 6 units, and that is a shortage. Okay. Guess we can skip this. Doesn't talk that much about let's talk about this. So you might see questions like this on the test too. So I'll give you a market and introduce a change to it, and I will ask you what will happen to the price and quantity. So let's suppose this market something happened. Let's suppose hot weather. So again, hot weather. So weather is very hot. That will change the taste. That will change our consumer taste to ice cream. Because when the weather is hot, we tend to buy more ice cream, right? So when the weather temperature goes up, demand curve will be increasing to your right. And then this will cause the market to change fundamentally. And this is how you look at it. So when the price, when the weather is still pretty cool, this was our old equilibrium. So old equilibrium. When the demand curve is shifting to the right, supply curve holding constant, this point here is our new equilibrium. Now at the new equilibrium, you have your new price. So the new market price is 250, and new market quantity is 10 units. At the old equilibrium, market price is $2, and the quantity is $7. So what happened? When the demand curve is shifting to the right, so increase of demand, your quantity is increasing, your price is also increasing. So demand goes up, so demand increase, price goes up, and then quantity goes up. Now, guys, I want you to try this on your paper. So if you want to show a demand decreasing, so demand curve shifting to the left, and then compare your new equilibrium and old equilibrium, what you'll find out is that when the demand goes down, your price will go down, and then quantity will go down. So when the demand change, your price and quantity goes hand in hand. They both increase in the same, change in the same direction. Now, if you're gonna try this, let me see if we have example of supply curve. So if you do a supply curve shift, so let's imagine here the price of sugar reduce. I'm sorry, the price of sugar increase, which means we reduce the supply of sugar ice cream. So supply goes to the left. That's a decreasing. Again, you compare your equilibriums. So at this point, this is the old equilibrium. At this point, that's your new equilibrium. So compare the 2 points. The price new is 250, old is $2. So price goes up, but quantity old was $7, 7 unit, new is 4, so quantity goes down. So when the supply is decreasing, price goes up, and then quantity goes down. Now, guys, if you want to try this on your paper too. So try to show a supply curve shifting to the right, and there will be an increase on supply, and then you will find out that when the supply is shifting to the right, so increase supply curve, price will go down. That's the price, and then quantity will go up. So for the supply change, they're changing opposite directions. So between price and quantity, they're actually inversely changed. Okay. We already talked about that. Okay, so this is what happens when you have both supply demand curve change. We don't need to know this. Let me just talk about it. So guys, we said before that when the demand increase, price goes up, quantity goes up. When the demand decrease, price goes down, and then quantity goes down. When the supply increase, that's supposed to be an arrow. Price goes down, quantity goes up. When the supply decrease, price goes up, quantity goes down. All right, so this is what happened when the price supply curve change individually. But what will happen if they change together? So imagine we have a case where the supply demand curve and supply curve both increase, then what's going to happen? Now, if you compare the price and quantity change, see how the quantity increasing for both of them. So when you combine them together, so when supply demand curve both increase, so supply demand will both increase. Your quantity will increase because it could change the same direction. But this change in price, one factor change up, one factor change down. So what does happen? We don't know. The reason why we don't know, because we don't know which between supply demand curve, which one changed more. So if the supply changed more, then price goes down. But if your demand changed more, then price goes up. So combined together, if you don't know which one changed more, then the change in price is ambiguous. We just don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so when you put two together, make sure you know which one changed more. Otherwise, one of the factor will be ambiguous. Okay, now again, if you combine this demand decrease and the supply increase together, to combine these two, then the price will go down because it changes the same direction, but the change in quantity will be ambiguous. So again, when you put two together, make sure you want to know which one changed more or less, then you know how both factor will change, or both variable will change. Okay. All right. Let me. So you have this little table here. I don't want to go over it. It's a lot of stuff to do. I mean, it's everything we just talk about, but put together as a summary. Okay. All right. So that's it for this chapter. Guys, have any question? Again, always remember, have any question, ask me, and I'm always here to help. Okay. So guys, I will post another lecture for chapter 5, and I will see you there. Bye bye.